Okay, so this video is about today's assignment, the origin, characteristics, and movement of the religion of Islam. Um, so there is a quiz that goes along to this. It's not a quiz because I really want you to do it today in class, but here's me reading this article or two articles to you. It says it's 15 pages long. Don't be intimidated by that. There's a lot of pictures. Muhammad and the faith of Islam. A man meditating alone in a cave near Mecca received a religious vision. This vision laid the foundations for a new religion. The year was 610, and the man's name was Muhammad. And the belief system that arose from Muhammad's ideas became the basis of one of the world's most widely practiced religions, Islam. Muhammad was born around 570 in the city of Mecca, located on the Arabian Peninsula. Both of his parents died before Muhammad was 6, and he was raised by his grandfather and uncle. His family belonged to a poor clan that was active in Mecca politics. Following the traditions of wealthy families, he spent part of his childhood living with a Bedouin family. Bedouins led fairly isolated lives as nomadic herders in the harsh Arabian desert. Muhammad's experiences among these people most likely had a strong influence on the development of Islam. In his 20s, Muhammad began working as a merchant and soon married his employer, a rich woman named Khadija. Over the next 20 years, he became a wealthy and respected trader, traveling throughout the Middle East. He and his wife had 6 children, 2 boys who did not live into adulthood and 4 girls. By the time he was 40, he began having religious visions that would change his life, a revelation of faith. While meditating in a cave on Mount Hira, Muhammad had a revelation. He came to believe that he was called on by God to be a prophet and teacher of a new faith, Islam, which means literally submission. This new faith incorporated aspects of Judaism and Christianity. It respected the holy books of these religions and its great leaders and prophets, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and others. Muhammad called Abraham Khalil, God's friend, and identified him as Islam's ancient patriarch. Islam traces its heritage through Abraham's son Ishmael. And I like this picture here because it shows you what the mosques look like, or this is one in particular, the mosque in Medina. Muhammad believed that he himself was God's final prophet. Central to Islamic beliefs are the 5 pillars of faith, which all followers of Islam, called Muslims, must follow. There is only one universal God, Allah. Followers of Islam are expected to pray 5 times each day while facing Mecca. All Muslims are expected to pay a yearly tax that is mostly intended to help the poor and needy. For the entire month of Ramadan, Muslims must not eat, smoke, drink, or have sexual relations from sunrise to sunset. And then the 5th one, all able Muslims must take a pilgrimage or Hajj to Mecca at least once in their lifetimes. Muhammad's message was especially well received by the poor and slaves, but many people were opposed to his message. This opposition only seemed to make him more determined. After years of publicly promoting his ideas, he became so disliked that some began plotting his murder from Mecca to Medina and back. In 622, fearing for his life, Muhammad fled to the town of Medina. This flight from Mecca to Medina became known as the Hijra, Arabic for flight. The Muslim calendar begins on this year. In Medina, the local people welcomed Muhammad and his followers. There, Muhammad built the first mosque or Islamic temple and began to work to separate Islam from Judaism and Christianity, which had originally influenced it. Whereas his followers had originally prayed while facing Jerusalem, he now had them face toward Mecca. Muhammad continued to have revelations from Allah. The ideas from these revelations form the basis of a poetic text called the Quran, which contains the fundamental ideas of Islam. Muhammad fought a number of battles against the people of Mecca. In 629, Muhammad returned to Mecca with an army of 1,500 converts to Islam and entered the city unopposed and without bloodshed. Before his death 2 years later, he forcefully converted most of the Arabian Peninsula to his new faith and built a small empire. Now we're getting into a term here called jihad. Jihad is explained as the following. Belief in jihad is a common thread to many Islamic sects or parts of Islam. Although the exact meaning of the Arabic is difficult to express, jihad is most accurately translated as struggle. For most Muslims, jihad is a personal struggle against evil. The holy battles of this spiritual struggle are fought inside Muslims' minds and souls. Sometimes the struggle can take the form of a physical war against non-believers. Although this kind of jihad is referred to in English as a holy war, most Muslims believe there is nothing holy about war and that wars should only be fought against oppressors and aggressors. A minority of Muslims, however, places great importance on holy war jihads. This minority feels that Muslims must wage war against all non-believers. It is this conception of jihad that inspires Islamic extremist terrorism. Unfortunately, due to media coverage, this is the interpretation of jihad that most Westerners are familiar with. It should be reiterated that mainstream Islam is peaceful and rejects the idea of unprovoked war. Although the concept of jihad is widespread, it has not been accepted by the general Islamic community as one of the pillars of Islam. Unfortunately, Muhammad had not designated a successor. The struggle over leadership that followed his death has divided Muslims to this day, creating a division in Islam between the Sunnis and Shiites. Despite these problems, a vast Islamic empire was created over the next 12 centuries that would build a base of worshipers unrivaled by any other religion. Now we're getting into the spread of Islam. Technically, this is another article, but still about Islam. So here's about the spread. Islam is one of three Abrahamic religions. The other two are Christianity and Judaism. Islam is a faith built on the ancient monotheism of Abraham. I think it's missing an H there. It's monotheism. There's the Star of David, the cross, and the crescent moon, the star. These are the Abrahamic symbols. Bam. Muhammad, a merchant who lived in the small Arabian town of Mecca, was the founder of Islam. He began to preach a new type of monotheistic faith starting in 610. According to Islam, Muhammad received revelations from God. These were written down in the Quran. This message declared that human beings must worship and live by the teachings of the one God and treat one another with equality and justice. Divine salvation will come to the righteous, but those who deny God, called Allah in Arabic, will suffer damnation. God's commandments require all men and women to live virtuously by following Allah and the five pillars. Muhammad also created a political state to defend the young Muslim community. He led armies of desert tribes to take over all of the Arabian Peninsula. After his death in 632 CE, the leaders of the Muslim community chose one of his followers to be the new leader. This one was given the title Caliph. The Caliph sent armies northward to conquer the Byzantine Empire and all of the Persian Sasanian Empire. The area ruled by a caliph is called a caliphate. These covered a huge geographical area, leading to the spread of Islam from Mecca toward the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Muslim dynasties or lines of hereditary rulers were soon established. Muslim empires became some of the most powerful in history. In the centuries after Muhammad's death, dynasties were established in North Africa, West Africa, the Middle East, and Somalia. The 8th to the 13th century was a period of cultural, economic, and scientific development in the Muslim world. This became known as the Golden Age of Islam. So this is around about where this map shows the stages of Islamic expansion in the years during and immediately after Muhammad's rule. I'll let you pick through that. Phase 1, early caliphs and the Umayyads. Within the first 150 years after Muhammad received Allah's revelations, Islam spread rapidly. The Umayyad dynasty ruled an area called the Umayyad Caliphate. Muslim armies continued to conquer land until by 750 CE, The Umayyad Caliphate extended from Spain all the way to the Indus Valley. Muslims generally did not force Christians or Jews to convert to Islam. Muslims often called Jews and Christians people of the book, referring to their shared beliefs in Abraham or their shared belonging to Abrahamic religions. Non-Muslims had to pay a special tax to the caliphate. Gradually, more and more people in the caliphate converted to Islam and began to speak Arabic. This language spread across much of the southwestern Asia, except in Persia, and North Africa. After 750 CE, the Umayyad Caliphate broke up into several smaller states. However, most of the Middle East remained united under the caliphs of the Abbasid dynasty, with its capital in Baghdad. The reasons that societies converted to Islam went beyond religion. Polytheistic, those that worship many gods, and pagan societies saw conversion as a way to advance from a tribal way of life that revolved around the raising of sheep and cattle to a more politically and economically organized state. The order and direction provided in the monotheistic faith was seen as being more stable and more able to provide guidance to society. There's another great picture of the Great Mosque of Jenné in Western Africa. However, conversions at this time were not widespread. At the end of the Umayyad period, fewer than 10% of the people in Iran, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, Tunisia, and Spain were Muslim. The caliphs of the Arab dynasty started schools to teach the Arabic language and the Islamic religion. They also built mosques, places of worship, across the empire. Many of these are still standing today. One magnificent example is the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, which is in Syria. The Abbasids and the Golden Age of Islam. The third Islamic caliphate to follow the death of Muhammad was the Abbasid Caliphate. It was founded by a dynasty that descended from Muhammad's uncle, Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, who was alive from 566 to 653. It overthrew the Umayyad Caliphate in the Abbasid Revolution of 750 CE. The caliphs ruled from their capital in Baghdad, located in modern-day Iraq. During the Abbasid dynasty, Islam became the center of science, culture, philosophy, and invention. This became known as the Golden Age of Islam. The Quran encouraged knowledge with such statements as, "The ink of a scholar is more holy than the blood of a martyr." Scrolling on down there, we got another great picture of a school founded during the Abbasid Empire. That one's known as the House of Wisdom. Interesting. The Abbasids set up the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. This was a place where both Muslim and non-Muslim scholars worked to translate all of the world's knowledge into Arabic. There were some great medieval thinkers and scientists who lived under Islamic rule. They played a part in sharing Islamic science with the Western world. This period also saw much interest in the mathematics, geometry, and astronomy of ancient Greece. Mathematical methods of the Greeks were developed by such Islamic scientists such as Al-Biruni and Abu Nasr Mansur. Medical knowledge also advanced during the Abbasid dynasty. During the 9th century, Baghdad was home to more than 800 doctors, and Muslim scholars made great discoveries in the understanding of anatomy and diseases. The Abbasid Empire declined in power and was eventually conquered by Mongol invaders. Baghdad was conquered in 1258 CE. The Mongols attacked Baghdad, committing numerous atrocities and destroying the Abbasids' vast libraries, including the House of Wisdom. This marked the end of the Golden Age of Islam. There we have the Mongols destroying Baghdad. Artistic rendition of it. Despite the end of the Golden Age of Islam, the religion continued to spread, particularly on the Indian subcontinent and throughout Asia. In the 13th century, Islam spread to Southeast Asia through trade and work of Islamic missionaries. Sufism, a form of Islamic mysticism, became especially widespread in this region as the result of missionary work. Today, Indonesia is home to the world's largest Muslim population. Ooh, more art. In the early 16th century, the Ottoman Empire conquered much of the Middle East and North Africa. The Ottoman Empire became one of the most powerful and widespread Muslim empires. The Ottoman Empire was multicultural, and its subjects could practice different religions. Islam's spread over the centuries reflects a diverse range of leadership, experience, and social organization. This highlights the religion's adaptability. And we have our map here. And so we have a couple of questions about this map, I do believe, on today's assignment. And what I want you to just get at is, number one, when you're looking at this map, it's not like this entire region is or practices Taoism. It's not like this entire region practices Orthodox Christianity. And it's not like everyone in green here is a Muslim. These are just like the dominant religions of these particular regions of the world. And this does have an impact on politics, on economics, and specifically a lot of the social interactions between people in these particular religions. Because as you'll learn about this week, sometimes the religious differences do play out into politics. And we'll look at a current event going on in Israel this week as our focus. So that being said, I'm signing off. Have a wonderful day reading about Islam.